Tonight on Ground Crew Command Radio, we've got two titans of the Awaken Aware surface population of the Awakening Movement. We've got Corey Goode and Roger Richards of the Full Disclosure Project on tonight, and Adrian Vallera of Disclosure Fest. Big event that man is organising for the 11/11 mass meditation right in the heart of DC, Washington, DC, the District of Columbia. Hopefully the people will take ownership over that District of Columbia pretty soon. Folks, we got big events coming right up. Huge mass meditation on the 31st of October for the little Halloween showdown, shall we say. And we're going to get all into this, including Roger Richards and Corey Goode's big project with Above Majestic. And that's going to be quite a thing to talk about. Lots to talk about today, folks. And with the news segment of the show, if we can get to it today, we'll be discussing, has the Earth Alliance begun a giant pincer movement and closing in on the infamous BIS? That's all tonight, folks. It's going to be a huge show. This is Ground Crew Command Radio. You're listening to The Unknown Light Warrior. And we're back. This is Ground Crew Commander Radio. You're listening to The Unknown Light Warrior. It's a huge show and big events coming up that we all need to turn our attention towards, focus on, build up our energy, our respective energies on, because rest assured, our partners in contrast, they're busy as well. So we've got to make sure we more than, I suppose, take care of that, whether it's physical or non-physical machinations and shenanigans. As light workers, whether we like it or not, it's our job to deal with it. That's what we're here for. And yes, it's been rough. I'm sure most of you can feel that crescendo building. Those last checkmate moves being made by physical and non-physical light forces, both here on the surface, under the ground, and just above our heads. And a lot of intel, some intel has gone black again. I noticed even Q, as of this morning anyway, even Q has gone black. He hasn't posted anything for some time as well. So it's all happening as always, folks. We just have to remain steadfast. And as always, as I've said in many episodes before, apply that 80-20 rule. Put 80% of your time and focus on your internal healing and clearing so you can be not just feel better and weather the energies and walk through the seams of these rough energies of planetary liberation, but to channel more light during mass meditations. You know, that's the big moment where things come to a crunch, however that expression goes. And, you know, it really is just outlasting our partners in contrast. And obviously one of the best ways to do that isn't just the internal healing and clearing, but also remembering what it's all about. You know, it's of course it's not easy, but please appreciate this is in various different forms. This is a war. Ultimately,
it's a war over the control over the energies and consciousness itself. So, I'll be encouraging, I guess, Corey Goode to remind everyone of one of the main and biggest messages, if not the biggest message from the sphere beings themselves, which is our co-creative consciousness is key. That's the number one deciding element in us taking charge. So, and God knows Adrian and Roger Richards, who are waiting patiently online, they're doing everything they can in the best way that they know, with everything they got, full-time commitment, and, to assist with raising consciousness and steering the collective consciousness in the right direction. We're all doing our part. We all do what we can. So without further ado, let me bring on Mr. Roger Richards and Adrian Vallera, and Corey Goode will be coming on soon in about 30, 40 minutes. So let me see here. Okay. Let's start off with Roger. Okay, just let me know that you can hear me okay, Roger.
Yeah, you sound great. It's great to be here tonight.
Fantastic. You sound you've been overworked like I have.
I think anybody that's kind of committed to the journey and the light side right now is just all hands on deck. I mean, it's wonderful work and it's passionate work, but yeah, it can be exhausting for sure. Yeah, I understand. And it's not easy, doing that tandem sort of a dance between, doing that energy clearing in the morning or whenever there's uninvited guests, and then doing the work for projects to bring into fruition and to have that planetary impact that we're here to make sure takes place. Let me just look for Adrian's phone number. Maybe he emailed me because I don't recognise his phone number. Here we go. Maybe he... there we go. Gotcha, Adrian. Alrighty. Now I see your number. And thankfully you're the only one dialing in from that area code. Adrian, can you hear me okay?
Hey, Jim. Yeah, I hear you fine. Thanks for having us on.
Fantastic. I take it the plane didn't get delayed?
No, we're good to go.
Okay. Yeah, when important events are sort of planned and we do what we can to manifest them, you get those little interferences and, I did a bit of a clearing for this episode to make sure nothing like that happens. So how have you been?
Myself, amazing. Just got back from D.C. A few days ago, preparing and doing a lot of light work. And yeah, everything's beautiful right now and just shaping up the way we all kind of imagined it would. And yeah, it's such a great group to be working with here, with Roger and Corey and, the Full Disclosure Project. This is an event that is going to be remembered for a very long time as to a huge part and a huge role in this process the planet's taking, inner ascension, acceleration. This is from multiple ways, with obviously this mass meditation, uniting this consciousness throughout the planet, and then this unbelievable masterpiece Roger and Corey put together with the Majestic, with their relentless effort to make it perfect and just show what is going on in the deep state and present the world with information we've been waiting for a very long time, and combining with disclosure information and mass meditation is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and well, how's the spinning plate syndrome going with all the vendors and other people that are participating. You know, all the kind of, the tents with all the different things being offered there.
It's coming together. It's definitely different doing an event in the National Mall. The National Mall calls for so many logistical things, so it's definitely different, but it's all coming together beautifully. So we'll have a main stage on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial overlooking the reflection pond. And just to the right of that, there's the JFK hockey field, which, fits thousands and thousands of people. And that's where we'll have like 5 workshop space tents where we'll be doing all sorts of things from yoga and kirtan and meditation and sound baths. And then the full disclosure project space where they're going to have all this amazing disclosure topics that I think Roger and Corey will talk more about, as well as the panel above Majestic.
Oh, okay. And who's going to be on the panel again, so everyone knows?
We've got a lot of people from the film, above Majestic: Jordan Sather, Corey Goode, Laura Eisenhower, Dr. Sala, John D'Souza, myself, and the idea for the panel is to really kind of give the people that were in this film a broader platform to kind of talk about the topics that their contributions were, a part of within that film, and then just also have a bigger platform to talk about disclosure topics within, what Disclosure Fest has organized, which is this incredible, artistic, creative space of information, music, creativity, and it's at the Lincoln Memorial. This place is historic. This place has been the epicenter for a lot of movements moving forward. And, we're looking at essentially, this 11/11 being the start of a movement for full disclosure, really opening up the world to the opportunity to at least have dialogue with each other and communications. I think that the world right now, let alone the United States, but the world overall is, kind of pulling itself apart in a lot of ways. And we're also triggered and plugged into mainstream media loops and everything that, creates trauma in each of us. It kind of blocks us from really what's important, which is the ability to communicate. And I'm hoping that films like Above Majestic will be a platform for, dialogue, to start dialogue and to start communication. And I think this Disclosure Fest, especially this mass meditation on 11/11 in DC, all the grid work that Adrian has been doing with his group beforehand, it's going to be a moment for the history books.
Yeah, definitely. And I do want to get into Above Disclosure with you as soon as I can. But first, just to clarify for the audience, folks, Disclosure Fest is, first of all, we got the Mass Meditation Initiative, okay, which is culminating in the big physical get-together in Washington, D.C. at the Lincoln Memorial on Sunday at 11/11. And it's a joint operation, if you will, of Disclosure Fest, which is over at disclosurefest.org, which is Adrian Vallera, and Full Disclosure Project, which is Roger Richards and Corey Goode. Just to bring a little clarity to that for everybody. And so for the important bit of for the important details about Disclosure Fest, like I said, co-jointly there with Full Disclosure Project, they're doing this big mass meditation initiative in DC. And disclosurefest.org, to clarify, is a community and initiative based on, it's a non-profit platform with many different projects, of which the mass meditation initiative coming up on the 11th date is just one of them with what they're involved in. So folks, check out their website for more info about their game-changing projects or to sign up to participate in this meditation online or in person by getting a free ticket, actually, over at, they're also doing a live stream, right, Adrian? You're doing a live stream through the website?
Right. Yeah. So
Disclosure
if you want to. Right. If you want to join the live stream, it's disclosurefest.org/live, LIVE. And if you are near, because there's so many people on the East Coast area that's been, itching for this type of event to come, because most of these events that everyone wants to come to that live on the East Coast, they're usually like Contact in the Desert or Conscious Life Expo on the West Coast. And here is something that's free, open to the public, and is super inviting for that frequency and vibration to come and be a part of this event and, create this visionary change together. And that for a free ticket, just go to disclosurefest.org, and you'll see the first thing that pops up is get a free ticket for this event. Helps us keep track of how many people are coming. Yeah,
and that's a sort of helpful thing that you need. So, folks, if you live in the D.C. or Baltimore or East Virginia or Maryland area, you'd be crazy enough to go. Because one thing I appreciate, and I'm sure I speak for a lot of people, is that what you guys are doing here, you're helping, finally, you're helping make planetary liberation a little bit more fun as well. There you go. Which we need a bit of balance with that, don't we?
Right. And then we're also doing a few other events leading up to 11/11, which I'd like to talk about, because people in the area, if you're around, I'd love for you to participate. So on November the 8th at Franklin Square, we're going to be doing our Feed Our Souls initiative. We're going to be feeding our homeless brothers and sisters some plant-based foods, bringing meditation and some other activities, just raising that vibration in an area that has a lot of, suppression going on. And on 11/9, the 9th and on Friday, we're going to be doing river cleanup at Jones Point Park, and that's with our partners, National Parks, and we'll be cleaning the Potomac River. There's going to probably be 100 to 200 bags of trash we're going to clean up there. And then on the 10th of November 10th, that's Saturday, with, again, National Parks and Casey Trees, we're going to be planting 111 trees at Lady Bird Island, which is a gorgeous island over there. So this is kind of like a way for you to come and join in on these initiatives and be a part of like a really important key in our ascension process is being of service. And then 11/11, the big celebration and mass meditation.
Yeah. Well, that's a great example there of the kind of thing disclosurefest.org does typically. And for those who don't know, you're based in LA, right?
Los Angeles, yeah. That's what was founded 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, if we, enough of us participate in mass meditations, we'll be doing a lot to help the white hats, force the BIS to fund some of this stuff. Wouldn't that be nice? I mean, really, those are the kind of terms that I think, in any way, speaking for myself, it's always important to keep the big picture in mind. Okay, Roger. First of all, maybe we should. I'm curious to know how things are going with the before we talk about above Majestic, how things are going with the project around the telling Corey's stories through the comic book sort of platform. Is that something that you guys have continue to pursue and put forward, or have you moved on to above Majestic? What's happening with that?
So the comic project, which was originally under a moniker of Comic Disclosure, our intention was really trying to take Corey's testimony and apply it to comic format and graphic novel format, but in addition bring in other whistleblowers and help them get their message out through that format. The intention behind, looking at a comic audience was with the idea of trying to reach the broader spectrum of the consciousness globally, you're looking at different areas of people that are, aware and awake to some of these topics, so they can even, to digest them. And, comic book graphic novel format is a great way to reach an audience that is open to, potentially sci-fi topics or esoteric ideas, because these are a big part of, a lot of the comic and graphic novel genre. And so we released the first comic here at, I believe it was New Living Expo last year in the spring. And this comic is just basically an overview of, the introduction into Corey and how, he came into the public domain. We've been working with an incredible artist named Steve Cefalo, going through this project and really kind of getting integrated and involved into making something that we were all proud of. We looked at kind of pushing the envelope of what a graphic novel could be. A graphic novel, is essentially, a multimedia comic format for telling a longer story. It's like an adult comic book. But one of the things that you find in graphic novels is, there really is no gate or boundary for what you can create inside a graphic novel. A lot of them use, standard comic, panel cell formats, and other ones use, big, broad, expansive paintings or, hand drawings. And so we brought in Steve because he's been immersed in the fine art for over 2 decades. And his work is amazing, as just a painter and illustrator himself. And he was very connected to a lot of these topics in raising consciousness. And so we've been working really, really hard on this graphic novel. And the art that's coming out of it is absolutely stunning and amazing. And we're looking to release that here at the Majestic Masquerade Party here next week in Boulder, Colorado.
Well, that's really great, because this is the kind of stuff that is often the genesis for, I don't know, a culture, originally it starts as a subculture, but then it eventually goes mainstream in many cases to popularize. To popularize positive ETs, which is the reverse of what the cabal is doing through its control of Hollywood at the moment, which is promoting only negative ETs. So that's a big deal stuff that you guys are doing over there.
That was kind of our goal. A lot of comics and graphic novels get optioned for films. You look at films recently that just came out, like Valerian, which was based off of a graphic novel. With our broader mission of reaching the larger global community and, getting out as much information as we can, we're really looking at pushing this stuff into the mainstream. And this is where Above Majestic kind of comes in. Above Majestic is the first documentary of its kind to kind of get out into the public and the mainstream, talking about the dots that are connected between, say, suppressed technology and elite societies, breakaway civilizations. Yeah. And our, hidden history. These are coups for the light side, in my opinion, of bringing this information out there. And really, that's at the base foundation of everything that me and Corey that we work on together, is all about.
Well, that's a big deal, and that was the next thing I was going to say. When comic books or graphic novels, whenever they prove popular, that's often the precursor to, big budget studios picking things up and making big movies out of it, and so that people get the disclosure without the negative connotations and tricks to it. So that's really big deal stuff. And as far as Above Majestic, I'm happy that. Well, first of all, how far away is it from release?
Above Majestic goes live on all platforms like iTunes and Voodoo, Amazon, Google Play, all the pretty much streaming video on demand on August 30th there. And we're holding the premiere also in Boulder on Halloween night on the 31st. Our goal is And I like what is being organized too around this mass meditation on the 31st. This is something I've talked about before. The more that we become active as a community, within direct action of pushing and bringing out disclosure ourselves and unveiling this truth, the more that we start, creating our own direct action meditations on these occult dates. And so the 31st is a date specifically. From our perspective, we feel like if that date is being used to harvest a lot of dark energy and put that into the grid lines of the earth, then by all means, our group is going to be doing everything we can to expose that night, and then also supporting these mass meditations. The more that we collectively band together in these mass meditations using our co-creative consciousness as direct action on these dates, the less effective these ritual dates will be within these secret societies.
Yep, bingo. Thank you for saying that. It's a message everyone really needs to take to heart. Okay, so let me see here. So October the 31st, did you say, of this year, to clarify?
Yes, next week.
Okay. Well, look, it's a big deal, not just because of the information that it's going to provide and connecting all the dots together, but it's been a while. It's been a few years, actually, since a wildly popular sort of documentary has come out and gone viral. I mean, come think of it, I really have to think back as far as Foster Gamble's Thrive movement, Thrive documentary, is the only one that comes to my mind that, went viral. The last one that went viral to that degree.
That's a great representation. The work Foster did and Nassim and others with Thrive, was a really amazing moment where, this type of information, which was considered fringe and subculture for so long, started to peek its way out to the mainstream through a grassroots movement. I saw Thrive very similarly to kind of how we're promoting people to do red pill parties now using Above Majestic in a home where someone invited me in with a handful of others to watch it when it first released. And that's a big part of sharing this information right now. Teresa Yanaris is working really hard on organizing a red pill party package, which will allow people to use Above Majestic in more than just kind of an entertainment way, but as a way to host, essentially a red pill party in their home, invite, their family members, invite people from their community in to watch this movie and, approach it from a sense of dialogue and just conversation to get people to start talking about these topics. And we're really hoping, that Above Majestic gets picked up with the community in this way, where it's passed around and it's shared in many things, and is there to serve as a conversation starter. There's a lot of catalyzing topics that are in Above Majestic. I mean, the thing is packed chock full of as many dots as possible that can be connected to really kind of give a bigger picture of what might be going on behind the scenes, what might be, happening with all of this missing money. These are questions that people in the broader public need to start thinking about, because as we move forward and our collective consciousness expands more and more, the truth is naturally going to reveal itself. I like what you said at the beginning of the show here, where you were talking about an 80-20 mix, where 80% inward work and 20% outward. That's a big thing right now for every individual on this planet, is to go and do that individual work and what they're up against personally within their own experience here. And a lot of the outward stuff is, frankly, a big distraction, and it's there to keep you out of your inner connection. And so the more that you use the outer kind of information and the outer matrix to drive you inward, the I love is the only way out is in. People really need to start internalizing this and looking at information and the truth journey from their own perspectives. Where do you have trauma? Where are you triggered? What program loops are you stuck in? Who gave you those program loops? Are those serving you anymore? These are all questions that everyone needs to be asking themselves right now on an individual level. And as everyone does it, the whole collective consciousness evolves along with that.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Adrian, I don't know if you can relate to this at all, but Roger, you may. But whenever we try to create something, bring forth something, sort of through us and into this matrix, into this 3D world, it has its own frequency, and that frequency is usually higher than the current frequency of the planet or the matrix. And it tends to, whenever you try to bring it through it, try to make it happen, or just after you release something and it comes to fruition, it impacts the frequency of the whole planet if it's something big deal enough, if you will. And I often find I have to do a fair bit of energy work just to be able to break through those, non-physical barriers and do a lot of remote work on the planet so that, how can I probably explain this, so that the planet rises to the same frequency or can match the frequency of the release of whatever creation you want to bring forth into this world, if that makes sense. And, that's why, I didn't know that you were going to release above Majestic on the what was it, 31st, only a few days away. And when stuff like that gets released into the collective consciousness and this matrix, it does have that ripple effect. It does increase the frequency of the planet to a significant degree. And let's just say stuff comes up as a result, because it can't handle the high frequency. Can any of you guys sort of relate to that kind of thing? Is that a curiosity?
Of course. Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I think it also, just the information that's there sparks an activation within these people that are going to be like listening and watching this movie, and this information that sparks this activation is such a powerful, profound thing, because that's what kind of, whether you resonate with it or not, you're opening your mind to something beyond the matrix and beyond the triggers and the programming, and that alone is why disclosure information is also so important. And then corresponding that with, like you were saying, the 80-20 rule, which is amazing, where you're doing the inner work and you're bringing in a high vibratory lifestyle with your diet, with eating plant-based foods, and a meditation or yoga practice, or going and being of service to others and the planet. These are all like activations that basically bring you into this forefront and path to your ascension process. And your channel, the more and more you work with this, your channel just opens, and the sun brings in, and the central sun brings in these amazing codes that are cosmic information that's allowed for all of us. We all have access to this information, but because of this programming and suppression in so many different ways, with distractions and chlorine and fluoride and GMOs and you name it, chemtrails. There's so much going on that literally all it's made for is to calcify our pineal glands and just shut us off to source. And it really takes things like Above Majestic and a lot of these other researchers around the world, and like people like Corey, who are coming through with some, being very brave with the information that they're ready to share. And all of this just sparks up these activations. And from there, it just grows, and you get to resonate with this new frequency that the planet is vibrating at. And then you bring in mass meditation, and it's a whole new ballgame.
And I agree with what Adrian's saying here, too. And, another point that was made as far as these objects, when people come together in collaboration with the intention of putting emotional, creative energy into into a project together. This is the basis for alchemy. This is the basis for magic. This is the basis for, literally creating powerful shamanic objects in this world. And so whether you're creating an event space, what Adrian's doing and Disclosure Fest by holding down space, clearing the grids that are there, bringing in multitudes of different kinds of creativity and, higher consciousness dialogue, that's an object itself. And like you said, when these things release or these things manifest, they do have an effect on the collective consciousness. And you look at individual work of, just a handfuls of people, individuals out there and work, and the effect that it can have is massive and exponential. And I think that a lot of the power that artists have has been hidden from them and been kind of reverse targeted from that sense of that archetype of the wounded artist and the starving artist. Artists are given that program from the very beginning that you will starve to death and you will never make something out of this for your art. And a lot of them take that burden on, and a lot of them, are hypersensitive in that space, and it kind of destroys them. The artists are the most powerful revolutionary on the planet right now because they have the ability to do things out of collective consciousness and manifest them into the physical, into an object or an event or anything that actually has value and energy of its own and has an effect on people of its own, gets people thinking, gets people feeling. And I think a big part of, disclosure right now and just kind of what's going on with the ascension process of the vibration raising on the planet is people becoming aware of, if we're really all from the source of one as the one creator, we're all here to do exactly that, create. We're all artists in our own expression of our own lives and our own participations here on this planet. And the more that we unplug from the day-to-days that we have entrapped ourselves in and given consent to through money and through, 9-to-5 jobs and through politics and right versus left and all the dissension there, the more we turn away from our natural power, which is to create and to manifest. And the more people wake up right now and understand the ability that they have to create and manifest something beautiful in the world, the more rapid we will see it change. And in some cases, it may just change overnight.
Yeah, certainly. And I should imagine that, one thing instrumental in the success of Majestic and having seen that go viral is the trailer. I imagine you have a 2-minute trailer, in the works or almost completed mainly to promote the movie. Is that the case? How's that going?
Yeah, the trailer came out here about a week ago, and it is being passed around like wildfire. And we're encouraging everybody to share it and spread the word. And I think that with the people on board here, having David Wilcock as kind of the pinnacle of the information running through the film, and then having contributors like Corey and Jordan Sather and Neo and Laura Eisenhower. These people all have this amazing kind of contribution to the broader discussion, and that's captured really well in the trailer. And so, the first kind of energy from the trailer coming out is very, very positive. If you guys are interested, you can go to the Sphere Being Alliance YouTube channel or Divine Cosmos YouTube channel and check out the trailer there. Feel free to share it with some friends and pass it around through your social media. Another thing we're really kind of working on releasing over the next month or so is the origins of Above Majestic, which is a lot of the cut footage that wasn't able to make it into that film itself. But along with that is an interview that David Wilcock gave that really goes through the entirety of his experience of understanding the secret space program and how that started in his research back in the late 90s all the way up till now. And it's a fascinating interview. I sat with David. Jordan was there also, and we took this interview, and he just laid it down for like a period of like 2.5, 3 hours straight. And it really ties a lot into the back-end research that he's done to kind of formulate these topics. A lot of the information in here is hard to swallow for most people. We're talking about things like, electrogravitic drive, zero-point energy, the ability to time travel using those technologies, medical advancements having to do, with being able to cure types of diseases, even age progression. It goes into the that have been around for centuries that have been, monitoring bloodlines of their families and keeping power and control. All of this stuff is, at the baseline of David's work, and the pinnacle of it, I think, what she points out was Corey's testimony. When Corey came onto the scene, about 3 years ago, one of the things I hear continually about his testimony is how it tied in so many dots for people. And essentially this idea of a secret space program finally opened the door to where is all this money going? What are all these ships that people are seeing out there? How is mass media controlled, globally? All of this stuff, came out through Corey's testimony in a really clear and succinct way. And so having this in the film, in addition to having other contributors, putting in their perspectives, is just a really powerful object within itself.
Yeah, that's a huge big deal. Now, first of all, what can you say sets this documentary apart? What's different about it with regards to documentaries of the past that tell about the Cabal and the SSP and so forth? How much are you allowed to say about it?
What is different about this documentary is, one, stylistically, my aesthetic as a filmmaker is very kind of steeped in underground and subculture art, and so you're going to see that reflected stylistically in the film. It's a lot edgier on that level. I feel like it will connect with a broader group of people, especially within the millennial community. Also what's different is, this film is just a nonstop drink from the fire hose. Continually connects dot after dot after dot after dot, and it brings in a lot of people's dialogue. One of the biggest problems I feel like we face in our community, in the ufology kind of community, is we're the microcosm for the macrocosm for the public. And when we face, all of these, dissension topics, people arguing about, some people's perspectives versus others, that's related to how the larger consciousness and the larger, bigger picture of the world might have that same experience when these topics come out. And so what you're seeing in Above Majestic is really, again, that dot after dot after dot that's connected. And the hope that we're all kind of feeling around this is, again, it's a tool to open up dialogue, whether it triggers you, whether you don't believe it, whether it goes up against every, part of your, belief systems and challenges those are great. There's nothing like having your belief systems challenged to help you go inward and redefine them for yourselves, whether it makes you stronger, whether it opens, other doors, whether, it changes your perspective. It's just information. And I encourage everybody, to drink from that fire hose and, take that information inward and see where it opens your perspectives up potentially.
I see. Yeah, definitely. And is it the kind of thing that the average light worker can email to their friends, family, work colleagues, whatever, that are not awake, and would often, you get that bit of ridicule and disrespect whenever light workers talk to, other people in their lives about what's really going on. Is it good for that as well, or is it too much of a jump in the deep end for that?
It is definitely a jump in the deep end, but I will say that my kind of, what we did with this film is we held a few public showings of different types of formats of editing. Jordan Sather spent a lot of time going around and interviewing people, for the film, and we created a few different versions to kind of show publicly to the community and get feedback on. And so where it's refined down to now is essentially exactly that. Is it's a condensed package to offer somebody. It's the one dose red pill that if anybody can take away just one of the topics from the thousands that are in that film as a possibility, their consciousness will open and they'll eventually trip down the rabbit hole. And that's, what we're trying to do right now. Everybody in the world is facing a choice. They can stay asleep or they can start to wake up. And inevitably, what I bank on, and a lot of us bank on in Full Disclosure Project, is that people's innate natures of curiosity and the desire for truth will eventually bring them to that information. They need seeds planted. They just need to have bits of communications happen that spark curiosity enough to promote their own journey. We've seen over the last few years a revolution in this kind of online journal movement because we've away from the mainstream and the talking heads, and we understand, who's behind these corporations, who has the conglomerates, who, is marketing money going into this. Nobody is trusting the mainstream, and it's driving people to the independent media like, this show, for example, or many, many others out there that are, journalists. The citizen journalist movement is alive right now, and what it represents, these people that have been activated on their own truth journey, and they're sharing publicly. That, again, is what we're hoping Above Majestic will be, is a one package red pill that you can give your friends, to others, and use it as a way to, awaken and create dialogue and plant seeds.
Well, that brings us into my next question, because understandably, and I don't envy your job and the editor's job in particular, in trying to fit in everything in the space of, 2 hours or so when you're talking about the mother of all topics, basically. So were you able to fit in things like Operation Mockingbird specifically? Because as everyone knows, the only real thing that's, tearing up the country, and most of the West for that matter, is the extremely aggressive divide and conquer campaign of Operation Mockingbird and, in other words, the establishment media, which is the common term for them these days. So before you answer that, can you maybe move your microphone a little further away from your speakers, because I think we're getting feedback from somewhere anyway.
Gotcha. So what I would say is that, Operation Mockingbird is definitely tied into the topics that we talked about in the film, especially around the kind of corporate conglomerates that own everything out there and, how the mass media is used. But Operation Mockingbird is actually kind of being kicked back to the sequel. I was the one that went through and edited this thing top to bottom and spent countless hours over months, really kind of refining it. And the challenge I had is, there was so much information. There was so much information that was there to be available to kind of hone and craft this thing. And so the way that I went about it with the first one, Above Majestic here, is to isolate it into chapters. And so we're basically looking at an introductory to the film, which talks about the balance between technology and consciousness, and that when we first detonated the first nuclear bomb in the Manhattan Project, this was we had surpassed the level of evolution of consciousness that was needed to manage those technologies, and we were now in stewardship of technologies that could destroy us globally, but we don't have the global consciousness, one consciousness, in order to make sure those technologies can't destroy us. And we're critically facing that. And so that is how the film is introduced. And then it's brought through a handful of chapters, focusing on the military-industrial complex, which goes heavily into William Tompkins' testimony, which is all about the early Nazi infiltration of, through Project Paperclip into the United States, the collusion that happened with the extraterrestrials and the esoteric societies in Germany, the information that was coming from these agents into the naval intelligence community, that William Tompkins was a part of, he really shows how all of that started in the, late 30s, early 40s. And then moving forward, we're looking at the secret societies. And again, going from using, essentially the Skull and Bones Society and tracing backwards and showing the lineages of the people that are in power and how that they have been stewarding each other into those places and ensuring that those bloodlines stay in power for many generations. And then looking at the money, the financial system, looking at how how trillions of dollars can disappear, from spending and not be accounted for. Where is this money going to? What is it being spent on? And then, finally closing out the film, the call to action around starting a movement for disclosure. There are countless movements out there, whether it's or Dakota Access Pipeline or Occupy or any of these movements. Essentially, when people start doing the research and going down the rabbit holes, they all end up in the same place. And it's the fact that we've all been lied to, all of us, and all of this dissension and division that happens between race, gender, groups, all these, country lines, boundaries. The dissension that happens is essentially choreographed by these elite at the top and manipulated over and over and over. And the more that we realize that our multiple causes and multiple, movements are one single movement about revealing the truth, that becomes the last movement this world needs. That will be the end to, mass suffering when we can all wake up and realize there are no micro movements. We're all in a single movement.
Yeah. And does it go into any explanation or, I suppose, examples of how the cabal manipulates people into basically fighting each other in one way or another?
Again, another topic that we're exploring outside of the film through the work that we're doing with our, mass meditation support of these initiatives that are going on. But again, these are follow-up topics that are going to be kind of piggybacked on in the sequel to Above Majestic. The first piece, which is Above Majestic, is really focused around the secret space program being the umbrella for all of these other topics, to show people that it's possible for all of this money to provide essentially breakaway civilizations to these elite communities. And when people can kind of tackle that and understand that information, the next natural steps are what can we do? And I'm working hard on the outline now for Above Majestic, which will cover a lot more. Again, you're talking about the mainstream media. That's a big topic that's on the list to go into in part 2. And then as we get into the disinformation tactics and the way that, archetypes are used to trigger us through mass marketing and through media, again, this will go deeper into some of the topics that you're I think, wanting to see from the piece also.
I see. So, but basically, you're, establishing yourselves as a credible sort of a brand kind of thing, and through the first film, with the attention following trust, you can then show people other stuff.
Exactly. The first film is essentially like a Rosetta Stone of all of these topics. And then the idea is to follow up on these topics, not only with Above Majestic 2, the sequel, but also with additional films that we're producing through Full Disclosure Project. And Full Disclosure Project, originally Corey kind of brought that name into the public with this intention of creating a group of people that wanted to bring full disclosure about. And since then, Project has grown to dozens of people that are working together on all avenues of events and different projects moving forward. But essentially next year what we're looking at is producing a handful of documentaries that are going to be focused on disclosure topics, everything from looking at disclosure in the Native American communities and the African American communities, looking at the topic of Antarctica and potentially the R&D bases that are going on down there illegally against the Antarctic Treaty. Our little collective is really focused on producing a lot of higher consciousness media and content over the next year through Full Disclosure Project.
That's a big deal. And, okay, folks, don't forget, it's going to be, we've got these 2 big events, and Adrian's got several big events. Well, you must have your hands tied, Adrian. I don't know how you do it. You must have really great support, and I do want to give a shout out, but I'm not sure if they want their names, their first names at least, read out publicly. So I'll leave that up to you. Adrian from disclosurefest.org, the live stream for the 11/11 event, mass meditation, will be at 2 p.m. Eastern on 11/11, and you can get the live feed there from disclosurefest.org/live. Well, of course, if you're in the vicinity, you'll definitely want to go and make planetary liberation fun for a change. So any last words, Adrian? We'll begin with you.
Yeah, I mean, again, thank you for having us on the show. And like, this is all important information. So, we so much gratitude for helping us all get it out there. This show, I just wanted to give, just kind of a little rough idea just so you can kind of see what's going on. So, like, again, we start at 10 a.m. at the Lincoln Memorial and JFK Hockey Field. We have multiple workshop spaces, the Divine Light space, Pure Love space, Consciousness Tribe space, Mind Body space, the Gaia Starseed Children space. In these, we're going to have people like a wonderful, amazing sister yogi, Sammy Rose, going to be doing like a yin yoga. One of our headlining musical acts, this amazing shamanic tribal magician is amazing. Borangi is going to be doing a sing, dance, play workshop. Part of Full Disclosure, we have Renee Armenta. He's going to be doing like this shamanic, sacred meditation, like sound healing. It's going to be breathtaking. He did it over at the Dimension of Disclosure. Was amazing. We have this beautiful man, Gustavo, he's a local there. He's going to be doing a really different spin on kirtan. If you're not familiar with kirtan, it's a beautiful mantra music, and he has a completely different spin on it that I've seen, and it's very, very amazing. Sherry Ray Russell from Los Angeles Peace Yoga Gallery, she's going to be doing a Hatha yoga class. Amanda Sage, which is one of our world-renowned visionary artists, right there with Alex Gray, she's going to be doing a workshop on her vision train, which is something that's beautiful, as well as another area where she's going to be hosting in the Art Walk, where you can actually help participate in drawing and painting the vision train. We're going to have sound baths by Chain. One of our beautiful brothers, one of Disclosure Fest, this volunteers that's turned one of our main reps, Connor Evans and Lindsay Hilgast. They're going to be doing a workshop on infinite abundance, and it's something you really want to tune into. They've been studying our financial system and this reset, and that's going to happen. Definitely check that out. I wanted to just kind of go through the list so we can give everyone shout-outs. Melissa Breslow is going to be doing our mind-body space tent. She's going to be doing a Nam yoga and essence workshop. One of the locals there, Atticus Mooney, she's going to be doing ecstatic dance, which is something really amazing because we get to really ground ourselves and dance and move with the energy of the planet. Carissa Ayers is going to be doing an amazing tribal sound bath. Erica Meyer, who's from an organization out there in D.C. called Compassion Over Killing. She also does the D.C. Veg Fest. She's going to be doing an amazing talk. And then in our Starseed Children's space, John Nash and Megan Thomas are going to be doing our children's workshops, which is going to consist of children's yoga, tribal face painting, warrior and priestess walks, learning sacred geometry, things like that for our children, which is super important because that pure energy is still flowing in our children. They haven't really been able to, be raised into this programming society in this lifetime or remember it in this lifetime yet. And their pure energy being brought into an elemental of this mass meditation and in this type of workshop event. It's so beautiful. One of our good buddies, long lasting brothers from the very beginning of Disclosure Fest, Rama, he's going to be doing a very interactive sacred geometry sound bath. And there's more. Plus everything in the total disclosure, full disclosure project space with Above Majestic and that whole panel there. So basically an event like this is just geared towards bringing you in and being present, taking your shoes off and your socks off and getting grounded to our great Mother Gaia. I got to also mention Megan Thomas is going to be doing a goddess circle prayer for the four corners. And then there's Clifford Mahudi, who's going to be doing a water blessing that's going to help reinforce this new grid that we worked on in D.C. to reverse the darkness into the light, and bringing in this indigenous energy that is another part of this event. So it's really a well-balanced event that's going to have disclosure information. You're going to learn how to do yoga and practice different styles of meditation, as well as in being part of workshops where you can really expand your mind and your body and your spirit, and really being connected to our great Mother Earth and receiving our downloads, and then participating in a mass meditation, worldwide, globally, visual, a very beautiful visual journey, so we can all visualize this amazing change together. Because, the power of manifestation right now is so instant. Because this vibration, we've never been at this amazing vibration this planet is the frequency of this planet is vibrating at. We've never experienced it. This is all new in this dimension, and what it's brought to us is the second we start seeing something or thinking something, we are already manifesting it. And together in one consciousness stream, visualizing the change that we could bring upon the planet and humanity and our animals is so profound. And I'm just blessed that we could actually get something like this together in LA and then now in DC, and we're going to be spreading it throughout different parts of the planet. It's just it's humbling work. Amazing. I'm super grateful to work with such an amazing team. And it is a team effort. So many of these amazing people, my long partner, Jeremy Cohen, who's been there from the beginning, one of the most unbelievable people I've ever had to work with, most dedication and attention to detail. And there's so many people that are part of this, Devin Warren, Laro, there's so many. So I'm just grateful that we were able to do something like this and bring this type of an event and the acceleration to our ascension process. And there's one more thing to say. After Disclosure Fest in LA in June, there was a transmission that came between me and a friend, Vera, that we had to activate a grid right after June. And this is a really intense story that Roger played a big role on. That basically this grid in the end of June was supposed to bring East and West together and in this acceleration process for this planet. And while this amazing starseed Vera was with me doing this, and after we activated the first marker, that's when Roger had called me saying, this idea of doing DC is really good. Let's figure it out. And since that activation of that grid, this whole thing has been coming together. And we really want to thank our sponsors and partners. We love you so much out there. You know who you are. And, this is some profound work. I'm just glad we're all able to come together and, activate the planet together and just bask in this new frequency.
Yeah, and break through all the lies that, is keeping a lot of the surface population divided. The cabal is obviously very aggressive about that. And, what you've just shared with us, Adrian, always inspires us. It reminds people, that there's always someone or some group doing something, doing a lot, moving mountains, and in turn keeps us going, keeps everyone else going, and motivates us to, take our turn to step into the fore. And that's a big deal. And, of course, come Halloween and let alone 11/11, folks, we're all stepping to the fore. We're all going to make our presence felt in no uncertain terms. That's simply what our souls are here for to begin with. And it's critical that we honour that. And so we were, by the way, we do have, dedicated teams of meditators in Taiwan, Japan, Malaysia, focused on planetary liberation, who are just waiting to get the wording for the meditation so they can translate it and participate as well. So that brings me to my last question, guys. Is there going to be a specific guided meditation? Who's going to be guiding it? And if the wording for that guidance is available beforehand, soon let us know. Otherwise, we'll just encourage people to try to join the live stream.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up. It's funny because we've been talking to different people who've been saying the same thing. So it is going to be a guided meditation, a visually guided meditation, and I'll be leading it on the main stage at the Lincoln Memorial with Corey. And we are working on translating it in Chinese, Japanese, and some other languages that if we can if you're out there and you want to help do that, let me know too, because we could definitely use that, because we can get the information, the actual meditation scripted, so that it can get translated. So during the meditation, you can just click on a language that we have for you to actually participate.
No, that's fantastic. And just to clarify, I suppose I made an assumption that you're both, got such full schedules and so flat out that it might be a bit too hard for both of you to stay on for the second hour. But please feel free to do so throughout our chat with Corey, and feel free to chip in if you are able to stay a little longer. Onto the second hour. Feel free to chip in, here and there, during the conversation with Corey. So I've just got to eye off the right phone number here on the side panel, make sure I pick Corey. Let me see here. Okay. Now, Corey, I believe I've picked the correct phone number. So say hello, and let's just make sure I've picked the right number.
Hello, how you doing?
Fantastic. Yes, I can hear you. Okay, fantastic. Maybe turn up your volume just a little bit or hold the mouthpiece just a touch close to your mouth, perhaps you're a little on the faint side, but it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, I switched over. I was using a headset that's probably not too good. So.
Okay, well, you sound okay now.
Okay, good.
That's good. First of all, you've been, well, how do I put this? You didn't demand or let alone expect to be a public figure in the overall grand scheme of things, and you're a pretty humble, introverted kind of guy, and I mean that in the affectionate, loving sense of the word. How has it been, continuing along the road of being a public figure and being thrust into the limelight when, you're, a lot more a modest kind of personality than that? How are things faring there?
It's definitely been, it was very difficult in the beginning, especially when I first started shooting with David Wilcock. And when I looked at the camera, it looked like a black hole to me. And, being able to just, look at him and have the conversation with him was very difficult. And, at the time, I was, definitely not as well spoken as, well, not that I am now, but as I, become. It was. I don't consider myself a public speaker, but yeah, this is something that I never in a million years would have expected that I would be on camera or up on stage talking, in front of hundreds of people.
Yeah. Well, as a public figure, I think you've come a long way in growing into that role. We all appreciate that it wasn't easy in that regard. I mean, some absolutely revel. Some personality types, they revel in that kind of thing and being in the limelight. You're not exactly that kind. And so we want to, not just thank you for that, but given that you're coming forward with such stuff when, you're not a single dude, you've got a family, you've got children, which I should imagine could only have made it harder for you. How is your family coping with things?
My family's great. I shield my children from as much as I can. My wife, Stacy, as usual, she's always, a rock that, keeps me going. Also the team that's built up around me in this mission. It's such an incredible group of people. I'm humbled that, they have come forward and decided to put their skills behind a lot of the work that I and others are doing that, have similar goals. So, it's a very humbling experience, but it's also exhausting.
Yeah. We know exactly what you mean. I mean, even if you're not in the public arena, it's still pretty hard. The average light worker gets so much, non-physical and physical interference, if you include all the EMFs and 5G cell towers and smart meters and so on and so forth, the usual 9 yards. We want to, for its worth, really thank you for coming forward, hanging in there, taking the bumps and bruises. I remember one, I don't know, a comment or a question on whether it was on some sort of a blog or some sort of, or maybe on Custom Disclosure, where a viewer was saying, oh, I wish I could be there in those amazing, stunning underground cabins, walking along and hobnobbing with Kari and all that kind of stuff, and being flown to the moon. And I suppose I better mention to people that yes, that stuff is amazing, but there is kind of like a price to pay, you know. And so I just want to sort of bring that to a brief focus to, you know, I wouldn't necessarily envy Corey too much because... Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, people... I hear all the time people say, you know, I wish I could be, you know, in your place to go down and, you know, commune with the Anshar. But, you know, be careful what you wish for. You know, these fourth density beings, they're very honest. And when you go down, they're not going to say, oh, we have chosen you, you great among humans. They're going to point out everything about you that's wrong that you need to work on, which can be extremely rough, especially if you have, you know, ego issues, which, you know, I don't think a lot of people would be able to take anything that was being pointed out. And it's a give and take. You have to make progress with your growth, your spiritual consciousness expansion, and you have to constantly be growing and showing progress for this communication to continue. They're not going to.
That's right.
You know, the type of person that you know, they're the same person that they were 5-10 years ago. They may think that they're being steady as a rock. Well, you know, they're not growing. They're the same person. So if you have no choice but to constantly evolve and grow when you're not only in the presence of this fourth density energy, but their consciousness and their way of communicating with you in a way that makes you look at yourself constantly.
Yeah. I'm sure the Anshar, among lots of others, let alone sphere beings, have their ways of making sure, you know, they probably, you know, force you to take a look in the mirror and, you know, all the stuff comes up and so forth when you're interacting with those sorts of high frequencies, you know. But again, with regard to that comment of, oh, I wish I was there to see all that, it is important, just as a quick but important side note, what's really behind that desire, you know, for those who wish that kind of thing, what's really behind that desire is an underlying pain, basically, of I wish I was not here, okay, where you are now. And if you face that particular pain about why and what hurt about being here, as in within the matrix or on the surface, and deal with it, you know, ironically, that increases your chances of being taken underground or being picked up by your galactic family even before the event. You know, it's something worthwhile facing. You know that.
Well, I think a lot of people. Yeah, I think a lot of people wish for those experiences also, so they can be validated and they can not feel alone. That's the original pain, is the feeling of separation, which is required for us to have this experience. When we begin to realize again that we are all one, we are all reflections of the one infinite creator who wanted to understand duality. So boom, explosion occurred in whatever form you can imagine, and here we are. You know, the one infinite creator didn't want to know one perspective on what it was like to be separated. It wanted to know every perspective. So the one infinite creator is you, is me, is, you know, my dog walking around in the background. Every experience is just as important as the other. Not one of us is more important, or our experience more important than any other.
Yeah. Even though it's easy to be sort of fooled by that, you know, with other people doing this, that, or the other, or something that seems to have more prominence. But yeah, that's well said. It's important not to be tricked by that. So what can you share at the moment, at this point in the planetary liberation process, the off-world perspective? Anything, not just new, but anything that they want us to hear the most in terms of the off-world perspective on how exactly they see things down here from up there, in terms of where the planetary liberation process is right now.
It's constantly
anything to share on that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
They are observing, and they're waiting for us to co-create the future that we choose. They're watching and guiding us when they can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So, yes, I'm sorry. What I got off of the question there.
No, that's fine. Just the off-world. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
the
actually, the off-world. They are sitting watching us right now to see what we're going to do, how our collective consciousness is going to co-create, what type of future or reality we're going to co-create together. There are positive and negative beings out there that a lot of people think when they think of this war going on, they think of it as a spiritual war or a space war, but it's more than that. It's a space and time war. There are beings from the future that are fighting to maintain their timeline and don't want anything to happen to divert it. It's a very complicated war that's going on, and we're just one layer. The secret space program is just one layer of that overall war that is a multi-dimensional war.
Yeah. What I'm getting at the moment is, there's always things, well, not all the time, but sometimes there's things that the off-worlders can do to really push things along, but sometimes they're sort of stopped in a way by, can the collective, can humanity handle the ramifications of this, the usual upsurge or influx of light that comes in or occurs whenever they do something. And so I've got a kind of like a theory. First of all, is that the case before I go on? Is there some truth to that?
Well, sure. Yeah, they're coming at us from all directions.
Now, do they often make their big moves, if you will, in clearing this, that, or the other, usually often non-physical planes in many cases, but do they often carry out major operations or make their big moves in the overall process during or straight after mass meditations?
Well, mass meditations, what occurs, the war that's going on, it's occurring on all of these different levels, and they know how to draw energy from the universe, as we would say, to use the force. And there's positive and the negative side. Then they all have to abide by these cosmic laws, and karma is a part of it, free will is a part of it. That's why they're not, the negative beings aren't openly ruling down here. They have to rule us by hiding in the background and manipulating us. The positive beings, well, they cannot directly interfere and break cosmic law, but they find ways to skirt these laws. And it's like a big game going on in the background to try to manipulate humanity to go into one timeline or another. And it's like I said, it's very complicated.
Yeah, it is obviously a fairly convoluted, multi-layered, and often multi-timeline kind of situation. With
so many different agendas on each layer. There's different agendas on each layer. It's
just a top of the wall.
Tricky ground.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that brings me to the next question. What is there any things? Can you tell us anything more about what is it that they're struggling with? What challenges are they having that's sort of unique to them in terms of trying to liberate the planet and guide us? If you know this at all.
When it comes to the Anshar, the Anshar, they have an agenda. They have their timeline that is supposedly our future timeline, or a positive future timeline for us, that they're trying to manicure and keep us on. And as they see different things occur, not only in our community but in the world, that pulls us away from their timeline, they feel like they're losing control. Like their past and their future slipping away from whatever decisions are occurring on our planet. So they're very vested in the decisions we make. That's why, the Nordic type beings have been involved with the formation of the United States and everything that's occurred in it, as well as there were negative beings that were also advising the negative side of the people setting up America and ruling it over the years.
Yeah, the master infiltrated. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I understand what you mean with the engineering of the Civil War and then other things that took the country in a negative direction. All right. Well, one thing I think I better ask, just to clarify, because, again, we don't want to make assumptions here. The timeline where the Anshar, for lack of a better term, survive, and they're safe, and they're going to remain alive and well and all that kind of thing. That particular timeline where that's actually achieved, just to clarify, is that the same timeline as us succeeding and transitioning into a fully liberated planet that rejoins the galactic community?
Yes, but it's not necessarily going to be a very smooth transition. Their past, which is supposedly our future, involved, there were cataclysms that occurred that are real scary for the humans on the planet, but we have to remember the planet is transitioning into fourth density as well, and we're along for the ride. So we have to be able to transition into fourth density along with the planet, or, it's not going to be good. But the past that they described was that, people didn't disappear off the planet. It was just after a certain solar event occurred, everybody lost technology on our planet, and these positive beings were allowed through cosmic law. Once a civilization basically falls, we're in a technological civilization, and this solar flare, giant solar flare, destroys all technology. Well, that clears the way for them to come down, the positive beings to come down and render aid and be amongst us openly. And that is the time that we first meet our cosmic cousins from the local 52 star clusters. They're human of different types. And the most interesting thing is very, very few were tall and blonde. Most of them were people of color. And it's going to be very interesting when we do meet those cosmic cousins.
Yeah, definitely. Well, one thing with regards to that timeline question and issue, I just want to, again, make sure we're not assuming something. And, because, there was a slight possibility from my perspective that, I just want to make sure that the highest frequency timeline that's for a highest good is their same timeline, and not any lower timeline. So...
Well, I would say that there's another timeline that's not, equally as good or better, that, would be, great for humanity. Like I said, the Anshar, they have a vested interest in manicuring their timeline. So, I keep that in mind when I interact with them.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, and any with regards to the same question, you know, the off-world perspective and what they're struggling with, anything that you know of regarding the sphere beings themselves and what, you know, their perspective and what they may be sort of struggling with in terms of helping us to liberate ourselves. And I know sphere beings are not the type of beings that quote-unquote struggle per se, but, you know, I partly assuming that there's some sort of a hindrance that may be preventing them from, I don't know, maybe helping us further, if you will. Anything to that effect?
Well, their main goal is, you know, we have to help ourselves and go to the next level of consciousness, because in their lower levels of consciousness in this ascension ladder, they had interfered with humanity and the local star cluster to a point to where they're karmically tied. At this point, a lot of these higher density beings, they were acting like a parachute, a karmic parachute for them. They have to make sure that we ascend so they can ascend further. So, you know, there's an agenda. There's always an agenda.
Yeah. I know. Okay, fair enough. All right. If you, to your understanding, if anything at all, is there anything that you can share with us in the way of what the white hats on the surface are struggling with most? You know, what's their situation? And obviously, you know, be as selective as you need to be regarding that.
Right. Yeah. There's actually quite a bit of struggle going on what we call the Alliance, the Earth Alliance, and they're made up of many different countries, organizations, for a lot of former military, you know, people that form cells and work either closely or loosely with the upper part of the Alliance. You know, there have been a lot of Alliance members that have been infiltrated and compromised because of you know, the secrets that they have or whatever, and it's caused a pretty big problem. There was a lot of mistrust among the lower ranks, and a lot of them, you know, also put themselves into, you know, financing this mission themselves, and to be able to finance their cells and missions, they resorted to doing things that were not quite legal, which, you know, got them in trouble. So there's been some disarray in the lower level of the Alliance, but the upper level has been moving along and following the plan and not missing a beat. And they're playing a long game plan. They're not, you know, going to pull a coup, go in and arrest a bunch of people and, you know, cut off their heads. They're doing everything very slowly and meticulously. And, you know, they have to start by, you know, pulling back and getting the legal system back and getting, you know, control over, you know, the military. And, you know, that's going on in other countries as well. They're just slowly rooting out the control of this cabal. And when they get to a certain point, then, you know, you're going to start seeing mass indictments, open indictments come out before you're going to see mass arrests. But that's the, I think what's going on there.
Yeah. And remember, folks, although with the slower way, it's also the less rocky method, you know, that allows for a more smoother transition, even though it's slower. You know, they are trying to be as responsible as possible, taking everything into consideration in terms of, you know, ramifications of their next move and each move that they want to make or carry out. And it's, you know, again, we have to have appreciation and awareness of what they're struggling with and why they have to be so cautious.
Yeah, and there's a joint plan, and they all have different parts to play in this joint plan all over the world. And if anyone falters or tries to go on their own and lone wolf it, it's going to screw up the plan. With all of them, the biggest thing is they have to stick to the plan, and it's a slow, meticulous plan. and that, you have to be patient. They're rolling up these syndicates and groups that are like, thousands of years old and very deeply entrenched into everything. So they're going through like a surgeon and slowly, pulling, them out of every different part of, the body.
Yeah, definitely. And folks, always remember, if you want to make things go quicker but smoother at the same time, our part, apart from individual grid work and private remote sessions, I guess, our part is mass meditations, okay? That's the most typical example. Anything you want to just add to that in terms of how mass meditations helps, alter the energies at the quantum level, where positive things tend to happen easier and negative things tend to get stopped easier or get exposed easier. Is there anything you want to tell, be very clear about with people about that specifically?
Well, yeah, this energy that we're feeling, this is a cosmic energy that's coming in that's going to, reprogram our DNA. The energy is going to raise our vibration, but it's also causing us to connect in ways that we've never understood before, or we've never been able to connect consciously before. We're going to begin to connect on a level that is going to be confusing at first. And that's what happens in fourth density. When you're doing these mass meditations, you're beginning to tap into what's already there in that fourth density energy-wise. And you're able to not only connect with every other mind on the planet, but you're able to interact with it and, send it not only positive energy, but connect with the people doing the meditation with you to co-create that idea, bring that idea and manifest it in this world.
Yeah. And bring more light, down into the surface through the veil or through your personal grid, obviously, to help the various operations, both on the surface and off-world. I kind of use like a slogan on the show from time to time, which is a very broad sort of statement, which is he who controls the energies, in that broad sense of the word, controls things in general. Would you agree with that as a kind of like principle?
Well, yeah, definitely. Images are way more powerful than words. It crosses languages, religions, cultures. Yeah, that's what's so important about, people from this community taking our information and skills to the mass media. This imagery and multimedia has been used for decades to control the masses. The television was the best thing that ever happened to the intelligence agencies. They had a way to reach out to a person's home every day and be able to manipulate them. It evolved through the internet, and now they have Facebook and other social media, to where we just willingly give all of our secrets to them. They don't even have to work for it anymore. It's out of control.
Yeah, Snowden made a statement a few weeks ago, I think, or maybe a few months ago, saying, Facebook was always a surveillance program from the get-go. Of course, many of us know that now. But something that many of us don't really know about, and I was just want to check in with you in case you do know about this. Laura Eisenhower, when she was on the show last week, she spoke or revealed something called Project Moonshadow, which the crux of it is it's kind of like it's Black Ops, but a positive version of the trauma-based MK Ultra or Super Soldier program that was, carried out, established in 1967, if I remember correctly, and carried out on the surface here, or perhaps underground, I guess. Do you know anything about this? Just to quickly check on that.
I've talked with her about it a little bit. I believe that Dimensions of Disclosure, the last event we had, or was that another event? Yeah, I mean, I was familiar with aspects of it, but not that I'm able to really recall right now. It's been a while since we talked about it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's cool. All right. Many people that do actively participate in mass meditations, you know, it's always encouraging for them whenever they hear some of their work bearing fruit on the physical plane, I guess, which is understandable. I'm like that way too, many times anyway. So, do you have any recent updates regarding Antarctica? You know, are there any Cabal or Dark Fleet bases there that haven't been cleared yet, or anything that you know about that you can disclose?
Well, I haven't had any new updates about Antarctica in some time, but I can tell you there's definitely a lot of their bases down there, research and development bases, where they're doing all types of unethical types of experiments on human beings and biological experiments that are just stuff that you're not supposed to be doing. And especially in Antarctica, where they signed a treaty that they would only use the continent for peaceful purposes, and that they are not. But no, it is still a stronghold down there, and it's not something that has been liberated.
Okay. Fulford reported a couple of weeks ago and it even appeared on the Scientific American, which said there's something mysterious coming up from the frozen ground in Antarctica, and it could break physics as we know it. You know, Scientific American, I don't know much about it, but it sounds like a mainstream publication. You know, and it says bizarre particle. Go ahead.
Yeah, or what could change physics change physics forever for us would be what if there is technology below the ice that is putting off this signal or these, this reading that is being picked up. What if there's ancient city, down there that the Cabal is screwing around with and starting to activate different technologies? There's more than one explanation. I've heard people speculate that, the Earth is hollow and the cosmic rays are coming through one side, the north through the south. Then you have the flat Earth people. I mean, there's all kinds of theories out there. I suppose intuitively speculated a similar sort of thing, that they probably activated or started something that involves a portal or a wormhole, maybe, sort of technology. But that makes sense. Now, one thing, going back to the 3D side of things, one thing that I'd love to see be completely dismantled, hopefully soon, hopefully by early next year, is the Operation Mockingbird program, but unfortunately it's having a lot of success in dividing and conquering, especially the Western countries and populations. And to that effect, what, if anything, can you say, or have you heard about how much depends on the midterm elections in the US? Will this election result influence things going forward, or not really? Oh yeah, absolutely. They have to win it to continue this long game plan that they're doing.
And winning it means basically non-Cabal senators and Congress people ending up winning the House. Is that the best way to describe it?
Well, not only yeah, that, but there are also some, people who have, turned. They've changed sides because they see the writing on the wall. It's over. This is something that, it's slowly rolling up. Everyone sees the writing on the wall. The dark side is going to fight it every inch of the way. And, that's just, their motto is to take everything and give nothing until there's a quick drop and a short stop, which means you get hung. So they're pushing through, and they know that that death is they're willing to fight to the death.
Okay, interesting. Does the lower level MIC SSP possess the capacity to take on the Draco and Dark Fleet forces themselves?
No, they're very limited. They have a much smaller force. It's mainly the Air Force and the Defense Intelligence Agency who have developed a number of these triangular craft of different sizes. There are some square craft and circular craft that they have. Usually they stay in low Earth orbit or, service one of their space stations. They're not, and they're out in space here and there. They have a very tight flight corridor that they stay in. They don't have the technology to take on the Draco. No, they do not. They think that they're the tip of the spear, but they're really just lower. They're in the middle, on the middle level of the totem pole, and it's a totem pole that doesn't really seem to have any top, because every time you think you're at the top, you find out you're not, that there's a lot more going on out there than you had been told. Okay.
The reason why I asked that question was I just wanted to get further, I suppose, confirmation or clarification on a David Wilcock post back in early 2016 when he reported, and I assume he found this out from you perhaps, that, you remember that big incident where big Dark Fleet ships tried to escape from Antarctica carrying a lot of Cabal members, and those Chevron-type craft, I assume that they were SSP Alliance craft, but if I remember correctly, Wilcox said that they were actually the lower-level MIC craft. Can you bring any clarity to that?
Well, it was craft that were given to elements of the Alliance, and we think that they were either Russian or Chinese. And they were very, very advanced, and they would be able to take on some, Draco on a very small level, but they don't have a whole lot of those assets. I think they probably deployed everything they had in that situation.
Okay, well, good on them if it's everything that they had. Good on them for really showing that kind of dedication and commitment. And by alliance, just to clarify, you mean the lower-level MIC alliance or the actual Earth alliance on the surface itself?
No, the Secret Space Program Alliance has been helping get technology to aspects of the Earth Alliance. And the Earth Alliance is made up of many different countries. The military-industrial complex Secret Space Program is still a part of the system and is controlled from high by a big corporate conglomerate that controls everything, every level, and keeps every level unaware of the other.
Yeah, I see.
And these alliances are people that have broken away from all of that.
Okay, yep. Okay, well, to that effect, how's good old Zig going? You remember Zygmunt? What's his role now? Is he helping merge efforts between the SSP Alliance and the lower level MIC SSP? I mean, whatever you can reveal. He
pretty much didn't believe that these upper programs existed. He was in the military industrial complex programs, And when he found out that there was something bigger going on, they started watching him, his own people, and they started telling him to back off, to not go in that direction. And he was a stubborn guy. He just kept
made
going.
him more curious. And
and he got himself in trouble to a point to where he had made contact with the Secret Space Program Alliance, and he knew that they were real, but now he had ticked off all of, his bosses. And they were looking for him, and he was extracted off of the planet by the SSP Alliance, and he has now integrated. They kept him and debriefed him for a long time, and now he's been integrated, and he's actually taking part in operations with them.
Cool. I mean, that part is good to hear at least. Putting in a positive contributing role to the liberation process, I'd imagine, which is great. Okay, let me see here. I want to make sure I ask the most important questions before the time is up. Bear with me, sorry. I'm not really a professional radio show host or interviewer.
Well, I'm not really a professional public speaker, so we're doing okay. Yeah,
well said, yeah. Okay, quite a few months ago now, you, on Cosmic Exposure, you mentioned how there's new sphere beings that have replaced the blue wavians and the triangle head beings. And
right. The new Guardians.
And have they been in touch with you in recent months, or have things gone deep black with them as well in terms of intel?
No, things went deep black after that incident where I saw them, and the entire magical, crazy situation that I witnessed. After that, all communication dropped off, and it was months. For months. And it slowly started picking up with the Anshar communications, but the higher density communications have not picked up since then, other than the blue avians appearing to me in dreams, giving me guidance and warning me about things, but I have not seen or heard from the new Guardians since then.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Let me see here. What would you like to share or say about the mass meditation event in DC on 11/11? And, does this represent another window of opportunity for the planet to take another step up in timeline frequency on the road to planetary liberation?
Yeah, I think all of us are looking for that optimal temporal reality. We want that timeline. And coming together in a mass meditation is the best way for us to get on the same page, the same vibe, as a group with the same overall agenda. But we're manifesting. We're causing actual change. We are doing direct action in a conscious way, and hopefully that's going to inspire people once it expands their consciousness to want to go out and do direct action in a physical way, to go out and hold a sign and say, where is that technology? We know it exists. We're demanding the release of this technology. That's what we're hoping to inspire, and it's all going to occur with the expansion of consciousness and through mass meditations, through the work like Roger Richards. He's the above Majestic. People are going to see Roger as one of the most talented and up and coming movie makers out there. He's amazing, and I hope everyone goes and orders the movie, because it's going to blow you away. But all of these things are what's going to help expand the consciousness and get us as humanity all on the same page.
Yeah, definitely. And, folks, again, it does, post-mass meditations, it does open up the way for bigger and better things to simply actualize and happen on the non-physical and physical planes. So that's still the primary message from both the sphere beings, the Anshar, etc., is to be like a disciplined army regarding mass meditations, right?
Yes. Mass meditations, be dedicated to that, and be dedicated to dealing with your own karma, your own traumas, anything that's holding you back from doing your mission, to train you to look at those traumas as training. The dark side thought that they were beating you down and holding you back, but the joke's on them. They were actually training you for this mission. And once you learn to own that and we can move forward, then we're a power to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and rest assured, folks, when you shut down a given trauma from whatever past life or current life negative events, and you retrieve that soul fragment, you do still walk away with the golden nugget wisdom of that experience. And if enough of us do that to a critical mass amount, in terms of internally at a critical mass amount, and where you start to shine more of your true light than your wounding and programs and what have you, that really is one of the worst nightmares of both the physical cabal and non-physical darkness. So put it in the schedule. You hear me say that every single episode, every single week. Regular listeners are sick and tired of me saying that, but make sure you do it at least once a week. Do that 1 hour, 2 hour session per week, doing that deep soul fragment retrieval, because, it's been, we all know, it's been forced up by the purging light anyway. And okay, lastly, how is the project are the off-worlders really hoping that there's a way and someone does something to unify the various meditation and groups on the surface of the planet?
Yes, I think these beings, they're working with all of us in the background. I don't think there's going to be any one person that's going to rise up to bring everyone together this time. It's more of a fourth density, mass consciousness sort of thing, a 100th monkey sort of thing occurring, to where they're interacting with thousands and thousands of us in our dreams, or interacting with our higher selves and passing information down in order to try to, manicure this positive timeline and to help us expand our consciousness. It's very important that the consciousness expands as much as possible, before this solar event occurs. So, we really all have the same mission when it comes down to it. Yeah,
and is it fair to say that, like that old adage, I think it's from the Bible, what was it, where God helps those who help themselves, or you got to meet God halfway kind of thing, and God will meet you at that halfway point as well. All the positive off-world groups, sphere beings, Anshar, Galactic Confederation, Pleiadians, Sirians, Arcturians, etc., are they all just strongly cheering us on and encourage us to look, the more you do for yourselves, and both internally at the individual level and with mass meditations or grid work, the more you do that, the more we can do to help you. Is that very much the case for everybody to have completely crystal clear about?
Yes. All they would say is the same thing that, you referenced from the same type of belief system, that all that is needed for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. And for too long, we've been divided, we've been controlled into doing nothing and being apathetic. Now is the time for star seeds to activate. It's time to get on your mission, whatever that mission is, and it is time to roll.
Yeah. So in terms of what you can do, folks, have that private conversation with your higher self, your I Am Presence. So they are listening to you. Have that conversation about guidance as to what else you can do or what you can do better if you're already doing a fair bit. Okay, we really got to step into our power to make planetary liberation and the event come not just quicker, but happen more smoothly, comparatively speaking anyway, than what it otherwise would be. Okay, Corey, I think I've covered it all the really important things to finish off with that primary last and big message for everybody to walk away with. Gentlemen, I'm not sure if Adrian and Roger are still on because they are flat chat with very full schedules, but anyway, last and parting words for Ground Crew Command listeners and everyone else that's hearing this.
Yes. All of that is needed right now, no matter what your religion or belief system is, for you to be the best at that. It is time for us to be, the best human beings that we can be and to focus on our missions. And that's what we came here to do, and now is the time. So, activate and go out and fulfill your mission.
Yeah, and that reminds me of a quote by another prominent speaker. I think it was Cobra that said, if enough light workers were, I suppose, activated and fulfilling their sole purpose back from the early 90s onwards, that the event would have happened by around the mid or late 90s. And, from my perspective, I believe that because, I always tell people every episode, don't be fooled by the seemingly mundane matrixy life that most of us lead. That we really are undercover agents for the light, sanctioned by very high levels of light. And, that we are real movers and shakers, especially when we unite. So for any other prominent person that has his or her own audience, if you get an email from another prominent person that has their own audience kind of thing, and they say, hey, let's join forces and do a mass meditation on XYZ date, strongly encouraged to just go ahead and join in, even if you didn't always agree with said speaker who may offer that invitation, because unity is so critical. So I just want to throw that in for, because I think it's important to finish off with that. So Corey and Roger and Adrian, thank you so much for setting aside the time. And we appreciate everything that you guys are doing. And we're certainly doing everything that we can in terms of our part. And I think that's that, folks. So, okay. Thanks again. Any last words from Adrian and Roger? Let me see. You guys still online?
Yeah, I'll just say that I appreciate you having us on tonight and, hosting us for the evening to talk about this stuff. It's incredibly, beneficial to have conversations like this in public spaces. So definitely honored to be a part of it. If anybody's interested in, going to the premiere of Above Majestic, it's October 31st, Halloween coming up next week. And anybody that wants to kind of follow along with the 11/11 event there, you can go to disclosurefest.org. I don't know if Adrian's still on, but I wanted to put that out there also. Thanks for having us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sure thing. Sorry, Corey, any last words?
I just wanted to echo what Roger just said. Thank you very much for having us on. And we look forward to seeing people out at 11/11 in D.C. and hope everyone tunes in for Above Majestic.
Yeah, definitely. And my partner and I missed out on getting around to meeting you physically and introducing ourselves at the solar eclipse disclosure event in Mount Shasta last August. So next time we happen to be in the same physical location, we'll be sure to say hi and shake hands.
Awesome.
So, yeah. All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much. And Corey, thank you so much for blazing a trail for other former SSP members to come forward as well. You know, you've helped open up the floodgates with all the SSP revelations and all the 2020 and backs and so forth. And, you know, I had another guy on that's recently come forward, goes by the nickname Meta, and a few others that have been coming forward in recent months or the past 12 months. And, you know, from my perspective, I put most of the credit to you for blazing that trail to make it much easier for others to come forward. So I want to thank you for that as well. Okay, it's a big deal.
Yeah, definitely interesting times.
Yes, indeed, gentlemen. See you on the non-physical planes on 11/11. And, folks, that was Adrian Vallera, Roger Richards, and Corey Goode making their first appearance, although it was Adrian's second appearance. And we'll be right back with the geo and exopolitical liberation news analysis, which I'm going to cut short this time for obvious reasons. And we'll be right back. This is Ground Crew Command Radio. You're listening to the Unknown Light Warrior. So once again, folks, that was disclosurefest.org and /live if you want to participate in the live stream if you can't make it there. But of course, if you're from that area, go ahead and go to disclosurefest.org and participate. The tickets are free, I believe. Check out their website for more info about their gun-changing project and to sign up to participate in this meditation online or in person by getting a free ticket by going to the aforementioned website and Roger Richards, Corey Goode with their Above Majestic documentary that's coming out. Damn it, where's their website? I think I just lost it. So just go to YouTube. I'm sure they have a trailer at YouTube for Above Majestic that's coming out on the 31st of October when the 144K group were doing their mass meditation. So that's a lot to look forward to. That's another big event in and of itself, and keep your powder dry. Full Disclosure Project, okay? Full Disclosure Project of Roger Richards and Corey. They're the ones releasing Above Majestic. I promise you another great blockbuster episode and interview, and I hope I've achieved that and that you got an enormous amount of, like I said, an enormous amount of clarity, inspiration and motivation to get you through the Archon Invented Work Week. That's what we're about here at Ground Crew Command. So let me just quickly go through the liberation news analysis, make sense of all the chaos over the past 7 days, because clarity is power. That high-level perspective is power. So, and I'm going to cut it down to about 10 minutes because I've gone over time, albeit for all the good reasons. That was quite really cool, awesome information that Roger, Adrian, and Corey provided. So let's just start off with has the giant pincer movement of the Earth Alliance closed in on the infamous, the big bad BIS, the central banks of central banks? During the same time, or the same period, Cobra reported that there's only 30 meters left of plasma toplet bombs, as in from the surface up, and which is huge news. That in and of itself is a huge sort of breakthrough for all of us. And does this mean we really are moving into the long-awaited checkmate position? Because the BIS and the plasma toplet bombs as an obstacle to the event, that's, all things considering, that's as central and critical as things get, one can easily argue. So, first of all, it's important to be aware that the Earth Alliance, or White Hats, had to wait or do a lot of things and then wait for those changes to take effect to where they can finally make that big threat to the BIS itself and make them do what they want them to do, okay, at least based on this intel. In other words, the cabal had to become weak enough for such moves by the White Hats or the Earth Alliance to actually work, to actually be able to be done. That in itself is huge. And it's important to have that, to be aware of that and appreciate that sort of, geopolitical and energetic framework that needed to exist, and all the work it took to get to that point, to even be able to say such a thing to the BIS of all people. That alone is a big deal, not to take for granted. Okay, so it certainly does look like that long-awaited checkmate position. Again, we have to just be on our guard, be, I suppose, vigilant, watchful, and be ready to pounce, primarily and typically through mass meditations, to make sure such moves can be, adhered to, can be consolidated, and so forth. Us taking charge of the energies is absolute key to making sure things go the right way, things go our way, in the smoothest, quickest way possible in whatever operation is being carried out, whether it's on the surface, underground, Antarctica, above our heads, in the skies, within the physical plane, let alone the non-physical planes. We have a huge say in all this if we unite and do mass meditations that have a very clear intent. Okay? So, folks, that ends a huge episode of Ground Crew Command Radio. Oh boy, it was a huge one. So, spread this link far and wide, share it, either the actual radio show page itself to this show, or the article promotion page on returntoyourtruth.com/blog. Spread it far and wide, because the 144K is just getting started, and I'm going to reveal more about that in next week's episode, folks. So stay tuned, keep your powder dry, and you are a light worker. You're fulfilling your soul path and purpose, so hold your head high. This is Ground Crew Command Radio. You've been listening to The Unknown Light Warrior. See you next week, folks.